Hello everyone, BrickDark here. Today we're reviewing the LEGO Star Wars The Armorer's Mandalorian Forge with 3 minifigures, 258 pieces, and a retail price of $30, where this set is a Target exclusive in the United States. Let's start with the titular Armorer, and this is a controversial figure to say the least. I think all the detailing on the torso and the legs is really well done, and you do even have that cloth design that she's wearing, as well as some accessories like the hammer and a piece to hold the Beskar. But a lot of controversy comes with the helmet. They reused Gar Saxon's helmet, and it just doesn't look the greatest. I've gotten more used to it because I've seen it so much, but it still isn't a very good look. The horns are way too big. And then another issue with this figure is that the lines and thus the visor are too low. I don't think it's that big. We'll notice it more with the other two figures, but it still is an unfortunate issue, and considering this might be the only time we ever get this figure, it is a real shame. As nice as the printing for the fur coat that she wears is, the figure still feels very incomplete without a physical piece going under the neck. Taking off the helmet reveals a black head underneath, which is the same for all of the figures in this set. You can see some of the footprinting, and yeah, unfortunately, just not as good of a figure as a lot of people were hoping for, which is a real shame. Just a couple of improvements could have made this figure a lot better. Hell, I even think this helmet could have worked if they gave a physical piece for the cloth and had the visor at the correct position. But unfortunately, that just didn't happen. Here is Paz Vizsla, and this is my favorite figure of the set, and I think a lot of people's personal favorite figure as well. He does come with this build for a heavy blaster, which was used for another figure in a 2017 set. I believe it was the Y-Wing. This is just a very nice and bulky figure. They use this backpack, which does have a clip to attach the gun to. Now, I don't think this is the best look by any means. I'm just going to turn the flashlight off so I can actually get it to attach, but I guess you could have it like this. Move the hand up, which isn't the greatest look. I'd prefer if it was vertical, but it's alright. You're probably going to have him holding the thing. Then he also does have this build at the back, which does attach to the neck attachment, which is the same piece that they use for the Dark Trooper and Wrecker, except this one comes in sand blue and has unique printing with that Mandalorian logo on the side. You can see a very nice helmet. I really like how they got that silver design on there. Unfortunately, the visor is again too low. It should be level with the hole, but it's not as bad as, say, Bo-Katan, or as we'll see in a minute, the Mandalorian himself. He does have another black head underneath, and then if I can get this off, I'll show you the printing underneath this main bit right here, and it's pretty complete. It's nice. Not the most recognizable character, but still a very nice figure to be getting, and one that I can see going for potentially a lot of money in a few years, though this is a $30 set at the end of the day. Finally, we have Beskar Mando, and this is a figure that I've fallen really out of love with in the past couple of months, and it all comes down to the helmet. This is probably the worst example, but you can see the visor is supposed to be, again, level with that hole, and it just isn't. It is way too far down, and it looks very bad. It's a shame because the rest of the figure is so incredibly detailed with this nice shiny silver arm printing that's also on the torso, and it's such a shame that the helmet is as bad as it is, because it takes away from what otherwise is a top 10 Star Wars minifigure of all time. You do have his long disintegrator rifle, which I like to call it, which is the one that instantly disintegrates people, pretty self-explanatory, as well as his small little blaster, which is the same piece they use for the base of Paz Vizsla's gun. This is the first Mando to have his jetpack instead of a cape, which does come in the wrong color, unfortunately. I do believe it's supposed to be that same silver color, but it is instead gunmetal gray, which is unfortunate. Again, you'll just find a black head, and fortunately, I do believe with the Mando's N1 Starfighter that's coming out in June, they fix the helmet issues and he also gets a face. So that's exciting. But this is not the Mando N1 Starfighter review. This is the Armorer's Mandalorian Forge. You can see some more back printing, which is covered up by the torso. And this is a very common figure. It comes in a microfighter, it comes in another $30 set, comes in a lot of sets, and it's actually more common than the original dark gray Mandalorian that came in the original ATST Raider, because that only came in the Razor Crest. So that's interesting how the more detailed and arguably cooler version is the more common version, but real shame about that helmet. Just, I really want to like this figure, but that helmet is just terrible. Looking at the actual build for the Mandalorian Forge itself, you do have two real parts. You have this part around it, and then you have the forge itself. They just attach via a simple clip connection, so we'll move this back part out of the way. So you can see here, we have the actual Mandalorian Forge, and it's a really nice build. I will say, not a fan of these stickers. Now, I didn't put them on very well, so there's this big gap. But even still, if you put them on perfectly, there still would be little gaps between them. And I don't think that's a very good look. I would have preferred if they had actually done a brick build of that. But you do have some clips around here, including another hammer. This really nice bit at the top, I'm not sure what it'd be called, but it's a very nice thing at the top, and you'll have all of these blue flames. Then inside, moving this out of the way, you do have a little crate with a gunmetal gray ingot to represent Beskar. That just sits loosely in there, and then you can have the armorer hold on to it and, I guess, stir it around or something along those lines. Really cool detail with that. Then you also have these two little seats here, so you can have, say, the armorer stand or sit down, and then you can also have Mando sit down there. Not sure what this is supposed to represent, but it is a part of the build. Do kind of wish they didn't have the blue here, but that's just an issue with Technic in general. Maybe one day I'll make a video about it, but yeah, LEGO just really needs to make those pieces in other colors that aren't blue, because they just bleed through almost every single set that they used in, and they just don't look the best. But still, this is a very, very nice build, and I just really love how this came out, again, aside from the stickers, but even then, it's not the biggest issue with this set. Now, taking a look at the other part, there is this part on the side, which has this lever and a blue flame and another Beskar ingot. There is some stickers out here, as well as one of the coolest parts of this set, which is this little Mandalorian hologram. Really like that inclusion. They didn't have to include it, but they did anyways. You do have this light up there. This part, which you can remove, and you have this little combination. Opening it up does reveal some tools inside. Let me just get the flashlight so you can see that better. But as you can see, just some nice tools in there, and those are the exact tools you can see in the Forge, which is really cool. You can also take this part off, and inside these crates you do have another Beskar ingot, a thermal detonator, which is always a nice print to get, and you get an extra one, as well as a silver blaster, and you can just hide them back in there. You have to put the Beskar ingot separately, and just put that on top, put it back, and it's very well hidden. Then another real nice inclusion is this plain Mandalorian helmet in that plain gunmetal gray, no printing. It's always nice to get helmets and other pieces with no printing on them. Then you do have the sticker up there, and it's present on both sides. From the back, it's not impressive, and it's not really meant to be displayed like that, but it is nice that they added that little bit extra detail. You do have a broom and a little anvil that uses the ice skate piece, as well as another light. And then once again, you can just connect it back up using a clip, and you have the entire build for the Forge, and it's a very nice build. First, I thought it was a bit small for $30, but looking at it now, it is a really, really nice build, and really, it's worth the money in my opinion. But anyways, that's it for the build of the set. Let's take a look at the box and the instructions. The box for this is a bit of a thicker $30 box design, and it does have that Mandalorian up there. On the back, it does just show off some of the different features of the set, and the set is more of a display and play set and doesn't really have play functions, which is fine. Not every set needs to be packed with play functions. Large instructions, you do have this yellow page which says you can build the instructions on your phone when you need the physical instructions to do that, so at that point, why bother? As for the Skywalker Saga, which is actually finally coming out, and you have a minifigure checklist. I own the Bad Batch shuttle, I own the Mandalorian starfighter down there. The only other set on here that I'm interested in, oh yeah, I do own the, that one up there, the Armored Marauder. The only other set that I'm interested in that I don't have is the Duel on Mandalore, so I'll probably get that somewhat soon. Then you have an ad for some of the other Mandalorian sets. I own the Buildable Grogu and the Trouble on Tatooine, and none of the sets up there interest me at all. So that's it for the instructions. This is a pretty interesting set because it has an excellent build that's very well detailed and makes for a great display piece, but it has pretty lackluster figures. Even my favorite figure, Paz Vizsla, still has the issue of the visor being lowered, which LEGO did for some reason in 2021, despite doing it correctly ever since they introduced that piece way back in 2010, I believe. And so, for some reason, all of the visors were just lowered. This was the case on Bo-Katan, this was the case on the Gar Saxon figure, this face on all of the Mandalorian figures that came out last year. And it's no exception here. And especially on that Beskar Mando, it looks bad. And it's a shame because the rest of that figure is great. And the Armorer figure is probably the most disappointing figure. LEGO's laziness to reuse the Gar Saxon helmet really does show, and it just doesn't look very good, especially considering she doesn't have the cloth piece that would go over her neck. But still, the build is really good, and if you're a fan of The Mandalorian, you'll get a lot out of this, and it looks really good. So I'm very conflicted on what to give this set, but I think I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. The build of this set is really good. Maybe would have preferred if they had done the lights a little better, but still, they look good, and the only reason mine looks bad is because I put the stickers on poorly. And the figures, while not terrible, aside from Beskar Mando's helmet, they still aren't as good as they could have been. Paz Vizsla is probably the only figure with the least amount of problems, and because the visor is lowered, and even then, the more detailed a helmet is, the less noticeable it is, whereas something on like the Mandalorian helmet, the visor is the only detail, so you really notice it. But yeah, that's about it for this video. If you're a fan of the Mandalorian, and you don't really care that much about figures, I think you'll get a lot out of this set. If you only buy sets for the figures, I don't know. This set might not be for you. But anyways, that's it for this video. See you guys later. Peace.